Yes, Mom. What is it?
I'm amazed at you, Victoria. I really am. Be off now and change your dress before your Aunt Elizabeth and Uncle Ben come. It will never do for them to see you in colors while Grandfather is lying dead upstairs.
What are they coming for? They haven't been here for ages.
They're coming to talk over poor Grandfather says. Your father sent them a telegram as soon as he found him dead.
Okay, Mom.
Oh, I think they are here. Oh, Henry, it's you. I thought the Jordans would arrive.
I'm wondering if they'll come at all. The last time you and Elizabeth quarreled, she said she'd never set foot in your house again.
She's not fast enough after her share of what our fathers left. You know how hard she can be when she likes. Where she gets it from, I can't tell.
I suppose it's in the family.
What do you mean, Henry?
Where are my slippers?
In the kitchen. But those ones are nearly worn out. You want a new pair.
Bring it fast.
Here, you better wear these slippers of my father's now. It's lucky he just got a new pair.
They'll be very small to me.
They'll stretch, won't they? I'm not going to have them wasted. Henry, I've been thinking about my father's bureau. You know, I always wanted to have it after he died.
You must arrange with Elizabeth when you're dividing the things up.
Elizabeth's that sharp, she'll see I'm after it and we'll drive a hard bargain over it.
Perhaps she's got her eye on the bureau as well.
She has got her eye on the bureau as well.
Yes.
Henry, they have never been here since father bought it. If it was down here instead of in his room, they can never guess it wasn't our own.
Amelia?
Why don't we bring the bureau down, Henry? We can do it before they come.
It doesn't seem right somehow.
We can put the shabby old chest of drawers in the place of the bureau. Elizabeth would have that in writing. I always wanted to get rid of it.
Suppose they come when we're doing it.
I'll fasten the front door. Come on, Henry, we'll change it. I'll run up and move the chairs out of the way.
Do it fast.
What have you got your coat off for, Father?
Mother and I are going to bring grandfather's bureau down here.
Are you planning to steal it?
No, my child. Grandpa gave it to mother before he died.
This morning?
Yes.
I thought I'd fetch this down as well. Our clock's worth nothing, and this one has always appealed to me.
That's Grandpa's clock.
Be quiet now. It's ours. Come on, Henry, lift your hands.
Oh, Aunt Elizabeth, Uncle Ben, and Zinny, please come in.
Hello Victoria, how are you?
I'm fine.
How are you doing, man?
Well Amelia, and so he is gone at last.
Yes, he's gone. He was 72 a fortnight last Sunday.
Now, Amelia, you mustn't give way. We all got to die sometime or other.
And now perhaps you'll tell us all about it.
Father had been married this morning. He went out soon after breakfast to pay his insurance.
And when I came in, I found it snug in the bed.
After we had finished dinner, I thought I'd take a bit of something on the tray. He was asleep, so I put the tray on the bureau, I mean the chest of drawers, and went to waken him up. He was quite cold. please come.
One thing we may as well decide now is the announcement in the papers.
Yes, we should decide what to announce in the paper about our dad's death. And then we'll look through his bits of things and make a list of them. There's all the furniture in his room.
There's no jewelry or valuables of that sort.
Except his gold watch. Promise that to our Jimmy.
Promise your Jimmy? I've never thought of that.
Oh, but he did, Emilia. When he was living with us, he was very fond of Jimmy.
Well, I don't know.
Anyhow, this is insurance money. Have you got the receipt for the premium he pays this morning?
I have not seen it.
Mother, I don't think Grandpa went to pay his insurance this morning.
But he went out.
Yes, but he met old Mr. Tato Saul down the street and they went off past St. Philip's Church.
Do you think he hasn't paid it? Was it overdue?
I should think it was overdue.
That drunken old beggar.
He's done it on purpose, just to annoy us.
After all I've done for him, having to put up with him in this house these 3 years, it's nothing short of cheating.
I had to put up with him for 5 years.
But we don't know for certain that he's not paid the premium.
Victoria, run upstairs and fetch the bunch of keys that's on your grandpa's dressing table. We'll see if he's got the receipt down in the bureau.
Okay, Mom.
Emilia, where did you pick this bureau up? It looks new.
Oh, Henry picked it up one day.
Mother!
What is it, child?
Grandpa is getting up!
What?
What do you say?
Grandpa's getting up!
Child's crazy.
Don't talk so silly. Don't you know your grandpa's dead?
No, he's getting up. I saw him.
Listen.
Father!
Amelia, what's the matter with little Vicky? Hello, what brings you here? How's yourself, friend?
Father, is that you?
Of course it's me. Don't do that, Amelia. What do you mean by this tomfoolery?
You took us by surprise, Father. Are you quite well?
Yeah, I'm right enough, but for a bit of a headache. Amelia, what did you do with my new slippers?
Aren't they by the fireplace, Father?
I don't see them. Why you got them on, Henry?
Oh, Father, I said him to put them on the stretch. They were that new and hard. Now, Henry.
Well, I would call that delicate, stepping into a dead man's shoe in such haste.
Oh, Grandpa, I'm so glad you're not dead.
Hold your tongue, Victoria.
What's that? Who's gone dead?
Victoria says she's sorry for your head, Father.
Thank you, Vicky, but I'm feeling better. Why then? Good morning. And Lizzie too. Amelia, Henry and little Vicky. Who's gone dead? With someone in the family?
No one you know, Father. A relation of Ben's.
And what relation of Ben's?
His brother.
I've never had one. Dear. What was his name then?
Frederick.
Albert?
Isaac. Isaac? Where did your brother Isaac die? In Australia. Well, I suppose you won't even waiting for me to begin tea. I'm feeling hungry.
I'll make tea, Father.
If it is disturbed, you again take the battery and charge it.
Hey, Amelia and Henry. What the devil did you mean by shifting Henry, Amelia.
Was it yours, father?
My bureau, the one I bought. That clock is mine as well. Will someone tell me what's been going on in this house?
I'll tell you what's been going on in this house, father. Nothing short of robbery.
Be quiet, Elizabeth.
I'll not be quiet.
How to remove your
Oh, I call it the
remove
face.
the battery.
Quiet, Elizabeth.
Battery connected.
And you too. Are you such a poor creature that you must do every dirty
This one
thing
you
she tells
charge it.
you to?
Damn it all. Will someone tell me what's been going on?
Emilia and Henry, they have stolen your clock and bureau. They sneaked into your room like thieves in the night and stole them after you were dead.
Now, Elizabeth.
I'll not be stopped. After you were dead, I say.
After who was dead?
You?
But I'm not dead.
No, but they thought you were.
Oh, so that's why you're lying back today. You thought I was dead. That was a big mistake.
Father,
It didn't take you too long to start dividing my things between you. Well, since your mother died, I lived a part with you, Amelia, and part with you, Lizzie. Well, I shall make a new will in all my bits of things to whomever I'm living with when I die. How does that strike you?
You know, Father, you can come and live with us again. We'll make you very comfortable.
no, he has not lived with us as long as he lived with you.
I may be wrong, but I don't think Father will fancy living on with you after what happened today.
I think neither of you has any cause to feel proud about the way you have treated me.
If I've done anything wrong, Father, I'm sure I'm sorry for it.
And I can't say more than that too.
It's a bit late to say it now. Neither of you care to put up with me.
No, Father.
Hey, you both say that because of what I've told you about leaving my money. Well, since you don't want me, I'll go to someone that does.
Come on, Mr. Merriweather. You've got to live with one of your daughters.
I'll tell you what I've got to do. On Monday, next I've got 3 things to do. I've got to go to the lawyer and alter my will. I've got to go to the insurance office and pay my premium. I've got to go to the St. Philip Church and get married.
What? Get married? He's out of his senses.
I say I'm going to get married.
Who do?
Mrs. John Fox who keeps the ring bells. We had fixed it up a good while now. But I was keeping it for a pleasant surprise. I thought I was a bit of a burden to you, so I found someone who would think it a pleasure to look after me. We shall be very glad to see you at this time. Till Monday then, 12 o'clock at St. Philip Church.
No, Father, please don't leave us. Give us one more chance.
Amelia, it's a good thing that what my bureau does says. It will be handier to carry it across the river on Monday.
No, Father, give us a chance.
The character of the plays The Dear Departed are Mrs. Amelia Slater, Siva, Mrs. Elizabeth Jordan, Sanchi, Mr. Henry Slater, Ronald, Mr. Ben Jordan, Vishwa Aditya, Victoria Slater, Garima, Abel Mary Feather, Bhuvan, and Jimmy, Master Ayman. Thank you, one and all. The Merchant of Venice. It is believed to have been written between 1596 and 1598. The play has many dramatic scenes in it. Set in Venice, Italy, the play is known for its great characters. It portrays the conflict between justice and mercy. Let us sit back and enjoy the play, The Merchant of Venice. Were two friends who lived in the city of Venice in Italy. Antonio was a merchant who was well known for his good character and great kindness, and also for his riches. He owned ships that sailed to distant lands and brought home valued goods.
Samuel, it's been so long since I met you. You look worried. Is there a problem? Tell me what's wrong.
In Belmont, there is a lady fair and
give you the money at no interest. But if you fail to repay the loan, I will be entitled to get a pound of your flesh. You must sign the bond.
That's how I changed young Antonio.
You must sign your actions have already started. You have not to worry.
They take the money and sign the bond. Antonio risks everything with Shiloh just to get a loan of 3,000 ducats for his friend. The senior wins the trial and is happily married to Portia. 3 months rolled by. Soon, it was time for Antonio to return Shiloh's money.
This is a letter from my friend Antonio. My dear Bassanio, I have lost all my fortune and all my ships have been lost in a sea storm. I am ruined. The 3 months of my bond are over. I have failed to pay back the money. I owe my enemy Shylock 3,000 ducats. He has sued me for the pound of flesh at the court of Duke of Venice. He is sure to win this suit.
Oh no, your friend is not going to lose his life for a small sum of 3,000 ducats. Take as many times the money you wish. Start at once to Venice.
At the court of the Duke of Venice, the courtroom is overcrowded. People did not want to miss a moment of the trial. They were going to see the deal. It was the strangest case they had ever heard of. Shiloh, the moneylender, had sued for the right to cut a living man's chest open and cut a pound of the flesh. The case? If so. But what was going to happen if Shiloh really did win? It was too horrible to think of. Will Shiloh win the case? Let us find out what happened at the court.
This is an extraordinary case. I cannot take a decision. Therefore, I have sent for my learned friend Bellario to help me. He may be here any time now. I am sorry to inform you that my friend Bellario is not well. However, he has sent a very young and a learned judge to take his place at this court today. I welcome young judge Mr. Balthasar and his secretary. I give Mr. Balthasar full authority to try this case. This bond appears to have been signed in a light-hearted spirit. I can't believe that Shylock really wishes to cut off a man's chest. What does he really want? How much money will satisfy him?
Not all the money in the world. I must get justice and my pound of flesh.
But you have been offered several times the money you lent. That is much more than justice. What satisfaction do you get out of a pound of useless flesh?
That's my affair.
No, it's not. It's everybody's affair. Shylock hates Antonio and wants to kill him. But he is a coward. He does not want to face Antonio
so that God may show mercy towards you. Shylock, if you do not show mercy to your fellow creature, you may not find any mercy in the Creator.
I seek justice, not mercy. If God gives me justice, I shall not ask for mercy.
But Shylock, mercy is far better than justice. Justice may turn out to be good for you or bad for you. But mercy is always good for you when you get it and good for you when you give it to others. Therefore, be merciful.
I do not find any mercy written in your bond. Why are you trying to make me give up my life?
Shylock's bond is valid in law. Tonio, a pound of his flesh, and Shylock can cut it off the left side of his chest.
Oh, why learn judge? What champion of justice?
Have you got a balanced weight flesh?
Have you brought a doctor to stand by?
Why should I do that? There is no such condition to any bond.
Your bond, as it is, gives you a pound of Antonio's flesh, but it does not give you a pound of his blood. Therefore, a doctor should stand by to stop his blood from spilling.
But how can I cut flesh without spilling blood?
I don't know how. I have not tried to perform such tricks. Cut the flesh. That's all I can say. But I must warn you, if you use a knife and spill a drop of another person's blood, you will have to face the charge of killing an innocent person.
Is that the law?
Yes, it is. And there is something more. You must cut exactly 1 pound of flesh at once. If you face heavier or lighter by as much as the weight of a strand of a hair, you will have to face the charge of attempted murder.
The wisest judge who has ever lived.
Give me my money and let me go.
Put it away. Shylock has refused in open court to take anything except justice and a pound of flesh. So now he must take his pound of flesh or nothing.
I shall take nothing. Please let me go. I'm tired.
You have plotted to kill Antonio. It's a serious crime for which the punishment is a jail for life. I ask only that you have to forget about going home unless the Duke shows mercy. Do you beg the Duke for his mercy?
I pardon you. I hope he now realizes how much better mercy is than justice.
Please take this. I charge no fee. I came as a judge, not as a lawyer.
As we all saw, justice and mercy are the two significant values which this play has taught us. Lastly, we would like to conclude our play with a short yet sharp quote. It is mercy, not justice or courage or even heroism that alone can defeat evil. Thank you. The character Shylock was portrayed by Ritwik, Antonio by Shashank, Bassanio by Adrit, Portia and George by Shruti, Secretary by Shrutika, and Duke by Deepshita.
Suri
back and enjoy. The kitchen of the bishop's cottage. It is plainly but substantially furnished. Doors and windows, fireplace with heavy mantelpiece down, oak settle with cushions behind door, table and window with writing materials and crucifix, 8-day clock of oak tuning table, chairs, books, etc. On the mantelpiece are two very handsome candlesticks which look strangely out of place with their surroundings.
I wonder where my brother can be. It is after 11 o'clock and no sign of him. Hannah? Yes, madam. Did Monsieur the Bishop leave a message for me? No, madam. Did he tell you where he was going? Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Then why haven't you told me, silly? Madam didn't ask me. But that is no reason for you not telling me, is it? Madam said only this morning, not the chatter, so I thought. Oh my God. You thought? Ah, it is hopeless. Well, where did he say he was going? To my mother's, madam. To your mother's indeed. And why, pray? His Grace asked me how she was, and I told him she was feeling poorly. You told him she was feeling poorly, didn't you? And so, my brother is to be kept out of his bed and go without his supper because you told him she was feeling poorly. There's gratitude for you. Put the salt cellars on the table. The silver ones. The silver ones, madam? Yes, the silver ones. Are you deaf as well as silly? They are sold, madam. Sold? Sold? Are you mad? Who sold them? Why were they sold? His Grace asked me to sell them this afternoon while you were out for as much as I could. But you had no right to do so without asking me. But madam, His Grace told me. Oh my God, it is hopeless. We shall have nothing left, and now the beautiful, beautiful candlesticks are gone. Oh, it is too much.
Ah, how nice and warm it is in here. It is worth going out in the cold for the sake of the comfort of coming back in. What is the matter? Have you been crying?
Brother, I have no patience with you. There, sit down and take your soup. It has been waiting ever long, and if it is spoiled, it serves you right.
It smells delicious.
I'm sure Hannah's mother was not so ill that you need have stayed out on such a night as this. I believe those people pretend to be ill just to have the bishop call on them. They have not heard of the bishop.
It is kind of them to want to see me at least.
Well, for my part, I believe that charity begins at home.
And so you make me this delicious food. You are very good to me, sister.
You are like a child. No sooner is my back turned than you get that little maid Hannah to sell the silver salt cellars.
Ah yes, the salt sellers. It is a pity. You were proud of them?
Proud of them? Why, they have been in our family for years and you had to sell them.
Hannah's mother was very ill and I had to help them. But I had no money. So I had to dispose of the salt cellars. It was fortunate I had them, wasn't it? But I am sorry, Happy.
Oh, go on, go on. You are incorrigible. You will sell your candlesticks next.
No, sister. Not my candlesticks. Never.
Oh, why not? They would pay someone's rent, I suppose.
My mother gave them on her deathbed just after you were born, and she asked me to keep them in the memory home. So I don't want to get rid of them. But perhaps it isn't to what them so dear.
Brother, you will break my heart. There, don't say anything more. Bless me before I go to bed. Good night.
papers. Suddenly, a thief enters with a long knife and seizes the bishop.
If you call out, you're a dead man.
But my friend, as you see I am reading, why should I call out?
I'm starving. I haven't eaten in 3 days. Give me food, quickly. And if you call someone out, I'll drive my knife through your heart.
You have nothing to fear. My sister and I are alone here.
How would I know that? I'll risk it. But mine, play me false, and as sure as the devil's in hell, I'll drive my... I have nothing to do with this.
You have your soul to lose, my son. It is of more value than my heart.
Helen!
Yes, brother.
Helen, here is a poor traveler who is hungry. Will you open the cupboard so I can give him some supper?
Okay, well, I am coming. Brother, what is he doing with that knife?
The knife? Oh, well, you see dear, he must have thought that I had sold us.
Brother, I am frightened. He glares at us like a wild beast.
Hurry, I tell you, give me the food. I'll stick my knife in both of you and help myself.
Give me the food, quick. Thank you, dear. Now you may go to bed.
Are you thieves?
I am sorry for this.
Sorry for them. Huh. Sorry for them. What a devil you are.
I am a bishop.
A bishop? Well, do you know who I am?
I think one who has suffered a lot.
Suffered. My God, yes. So, that was a long time ago. That was when I was a man. Now I'm no longer a man. I'm just a number. 5729, and I've lived in hell for 10 years.
Hell? Tell me about it. About your hell.
I had a little cottage. There was a woman there. She must have been my wife. I can remember. She was ill. She was dying, and we had no food. It was bad. So I stole the piles of food. But they caught me and sentenced me to prison for 10 years. 10 years of hell. The night I was sentenced, the guard told me that my wife had died.
My son, you have suffered so much, but there is still hope for all. You are tired, you have walked far. Lie down there on the couch and I will get you some coverings.
And if anyone comes,
No one will come, but if they do, you are my friend.
what a great practice.
Ah, you are admiring my candlesticks? I am proud of them. They were a little gift from my mother. A little too handsome for this poor cottage perhaps, but all I have to remind me of her. Your bed is ready. Will you lie down now?
Yes, I'll lie down. I know.
The thief stole the candlesticks and ran away. The sergeant and the 3 policemen called the convict and took him to the bishop.
Monsieur, we have something for you. May we enter?
Enter, my son.
Sir, we found a scoundrel sneaking down the road, and as he wouldn't give any account of himself, we arrested him on suspicion.
My goodness, isn't he strong or did he struggle? But was securing him, the candlesticks that are on this province.
These are the candlesticks of Messiah the Bishop. So we brought him here. But I don't understand. This gentleman is my very good friend.
Your friend? Monsieur.
And now I think you will let go of your prisoner? Yes, that's all very well, but please, surely, lose the prisoner. Right up turn. Quick march. You have told them you have given me the candlesticks? Me? Oh, I'm glad I did get away with them. Curse me, I'm glad.
Oh, you scoundrel! You pitiful scoundrel! You come here and are fed and born and you thief, steal from your benefactor? Oh, you blackguard!
Helen, you are over the court here.
What? And leave you with him to be cheated again?
Helen, leave us. I wish it.
Well, if I must go, I take the candlesticks with me.
Helen, leave the candlesticks on that table and leave us.
No, I will not.
I, your bishop, command it. I'm glad I didn't get away with him. I'm glad. Your bed is ready. Will you sleep here now?
No, I didn't. Besides, I must go on. I must get to Paris, and I must do that at night. You understand it, right?
I see. You must travel at night.
Well, I didn't believe there was any good in the world. One doesn't when one has lived in hell for 10 years.
Always remember, Michael. This poor body is temple of the living God.
The temple of the living God. I'll remember it.
You have forgotten your property, my son.
You want me to take it? Me?
Yes, they may help you.
I'm a fool. I'm a child who cries. But somehow you have made me feel that I'm no longer a beast and I'm a man again. It's a curious thing to ask, but would you bless me?
Killing all is the feeling of hatred and making for consider. If you change the person completely and it has the power to lead a broken-hearted person.
The participants of today's skit are Ishan as the bishop, Vidisa Paul as Helen, bishop's sister, Tarishi as Hannah, the housekeeper, Munasir as the gardener, Neve, Joshua and Zafir as the sergeant and the policeman, Suhani, Ayushi, Sanvi, Akansha and Sri Hasini as the angels. Music and acoustics by Kevin Andrew. And I, Rachel, am the narrator. Thank you.
Give me freedom, give me fire, give me reason, take me higher. Be the champion, save the people.
hope you're doing well, Abhiti. Long time no see. But anything for my friends though. Please take this, Abhiti.
Thank you, Abhi.
Anything for my friends. Good riddance. What rubbish have you given me for breakfast? You really expect me to eat this? Even a dog wouldn't eat it. And you make anything better?
It's the best I can do here. There's nothing better in the house to make anything. And we haven't got a penny to buy anything.
It's a disguise. Here I am, the caliph's most favorite. And yet, we are starving. Shall I go and beg something from the caliph?
We can't go like this. It's terrible for us to starve like this. But dear, will it be wise enough to ask the caliph some gold? The gold he gave us last time should have done for 10 years or more. But we spent it all. Nothing can stop you from bringing dozens and scores of your friends and entertaining them. We've been squandering all our money.
Squandering, you say? Living happily and sharing our money with our friends. If you term that squandering, then I don't know a better means of using money.
Well, where are your friends now? Not one of them will come along and help us in the present condition. You must stop this nonsense of sharing money with your friends.
People are like that, my dear. You entertain them to entertain yourself. They'll crowd into your house as long as you have money. And once that's over, you'll never see them again. Even if you search them like this.
What will you tell the caliph?
Listen dear, I'll pretend to be ill and you go to the caliph. Wait, I'll tell you what. The caliph is fond of jokes. I'll pretend to be dead and you go to the princess and beg some money for my funeral. What do you say?
How can I let you pretend to be dead? Look, I'll pretend to be dead. I'm so unhappy that I don't mind really being dead.
Why, that gives me an idea. Both of us might as well pretend to be dead if that will bring us more money. Listen, I don't mind dropping down first. You put on black clothes and secretly go to the princess and tell her how your beloved husband, Abu Hassan, was attacked with a high fever and passed away. Once you return, you lie down and I'll go to the caliph and tell him how my dear wife, Nozatul, was attacked with a high fever once again and that will be our day. How about it? Well, that's it. Let's rehearse our parts now.
Abu Hassan and his wife rehearsed the parts. Later, the two of them played the part so well that they are readily believed and each gets 100 pieces of gold.
Well, my part, it went off very well. The caliph believed every word I said. Well, here it is. 100 pieces of gold and a beautiful brocade to cover your lucky corpse with.
What a beautiful piece of cloth. I don't mind going to my grave under that. But look, my part came out well too. Here is another 100 pieces Princess Veda gave me for your funeral. She was very sorry to hear that you were dead.
Don't you feel proud to have a husband like me? 200 pieces of gold and a beautiful brocade. An end to our poverty and starvation.
But what will happen if we are found out?
Noise of footsteps outside.
Oh, that was what I was afraid of. It's the messenger from the caliph.
Yes, you're right here. Here, lie down on the couch. Be quick and mind you, don't move. Let me cover you with the brocade.
Abu makes his wife lie and covers her with the... He then opens the door and the messenger enters.
Abu Hassan,
Oh my God, how silly of me. My dear wife is dead and I'm you're not even crying. I have an idea.
Above, sir.
Excuse me, Your Worship. There has been a dispute at the palace, and the Caliph wanted to make sure that it is your wife and not you. Now I'll go and tell the Caliph what I have seen.
What do you mean you've had dispute? Why are you so suspicious? My dear wife is lying over there, cold and dead. Listen, I don't mind taking off her brocade and showing you her corpse, but this is an extremely odd time to suspect anyone. You only add to my grief.
No, we don't mean that at all. The Caliph is certain that it was your wife, but at the same time, the princess is certain that it was you who died. The Caliph has bet 1,000 pieces of gold on this matter, and the princess has bet 1,500 pieces. I feel sorry for the princess. She has lost her bet now, apparently.
The messengers leave. This is terrible. We are finished now. There is even more trouble in store for us, you will see. What shall we do now? I'm frightened to death.
You've no need to worry as long as I've got my wits about me.
It was your wits that got us into this mess.
A knocking followed by a woman's voice.
Now who is knocking? You stay right here, I see.
Nazatul looks out of the window.
What an awful thing. It's the princess's maid. I'm sure she's come to see if you're dead.
Well, I'm dead, and I don't mind you telling her so. I'll cover myself with a brocade, but you make sure she sees you've been crying buckets of tears for your dead husband.
Do you mind my coming in and having a look at your husband?
No, I suppose not. Come in. There he is. He's cold as the grave already.
What a rogue that Ali is. He said the Caliph a few moments ago that it was you who died, and the Queen sent me to find out. I'll go and tell her what I have seen.
It's no use relying on your wits now. You only make things worse. We have to own up. I'm afraid there is more trouble in store for us.
If it comes to that, we'll leave the city, and that will be an end to all of our problems. What is that I hear? The sound of trumpets and drums? Good God! It's the Caliph and Princess Zubaira themselves.
Oh, we are finished. I'll be hanged for this.
Be quiet. You don't get anywhere by getting frightened or excited. Go and lie down over there and pretend to be dead. I shall do the same, but before that, I'll leave the door open.
The Caliph, Princess Zubaida, the maid, the messengers, and others.
Above, sir. Above, sir. Above, sir. Where are you?
Nazatul, it's me, the princess. Where are you?
Look, there are two bodies here. Both of them are dead. It can't be true. It is the strangest thing I've ever heard of.
Me too. Poor Nazatul. Her heart must have broken at seeing her husband dead.
How can you say that when it was the wife who died first? Poor Abu Hassan's heart must have been broken at seeing his wife dead.
What a stupid thing to say. The wife didn't die first. It was Abu who died first. I tell you, no man was dying. My maid found Abu's wife tearing her hair out in three.
the faithful and the friend of the poor.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. Are you a ghost? Look, that woman is awake too.
We aren't ghosts, Your Highness. We aren't ghosts. And neither of us is dead. It was our poverty and misery that drove us to play this game. I don't mind you throwing me into prison for this, but please, pardon my wife. She's innocent. It was just a game that was planned by me.
No, Your Highness. I'd rather you punish me for this. Pardon my husband. He never meant any harm.
How can I punish either of you? I'm glad you're both alive.
So am I. Give Abu the gold you promised.
He shall. Abu, come to my palace tomorrow and you can have the gold.
So friends, you can see, lie doesn't have a friend. Truth prevails and only honesty the best policy.
The characters of the play are Abu Hassan by Danish, Nazatul by Afifa, the Caliph by Alice, Princess Zubeda by Netra, Abu's friends by
going on,
Mustafa, Munad and Sami, the Caliph's companion by Abdul Rahman,
Battery.